Welcome back everyone to another video, and in this video I wanted to go through common pitfalls that investors make when they are purchasing units. And this video is going to be a detailed video of me breaking down units, going through the common mistakes that people miss, common things that they should be looking for and that they shouldn't be overlooking. When you're purchasing a unit, there is a lot more pitfalls that you can fall into compared to a house, and so it's really important that you have the proper education and you have the proper knowledge before you go out and purchase it. And the reason I'm doing more videos like this is, one, to spread education about investment properties and asset types, but also because there has been an increased number of investors and buyers agents who are purchasing units. And so I want investors to be well educated when they are going out to purchase these sort of assets. And if they're using a buyer's agent, I don't want them to be misled into purchasing the wrong type of asset in the wrong area. And hence I wanted to make this video. Now, the first one is probably the most obvious, and this is regarding strata funds and sinking fund health. It is undoubtedly the most important aspect of purchasing a unit, right? The levy on the listing itself means nothing without actually seeing the underlying strata financials. Now, people often mistake this. A low levy is not necessarily always a good thing. In fact, it should be a little bit of a concern. You should always approach it with the mindset of being just a little bit unsure of why the levy is actually so low. You want the levy to be affordable. You don't want it to be crazy high, but you don't want it to be crazy low. If it's crazy high, that eats into your yield. If it's crazy low, then there might not be enough funds within the sinking fund, within the strata admin fund, to actually cover any major capital works that needs to be done, such as roof repair, lifts, facade, if there's any plumbing work that needs to be done, fixing up a garage door, etc. So if you see a low levy fund, then you should be questioning it. You should be asking yourself, why is it so low? Is it still appropriate for the age of the property, for the asset of it, for the amenities it may have, etc. It is really important that you check your strata levies and that you also check your overall sinking fund. So the levies is one part, then you want to look at also the sinking fund to make sure there is a healthy amount of money in the pot so that if something were to go wrong, and by the way, it's not if, it's a matter of when something goes wrong, the sinking fund has enough funds for it to cover it. Now, of course, if there is not enough funds, then a special levy will be raised. A special levy is not a good thing. When a special levy is raised, that means you will need to fork up extra money out of your pocket to pay for that repair, as well as all the other owners in that building. When a unit has a special levy, it can become very, very hard to sell a property, especially a unit. Because once the future buyers look at this property and they see that there's a special levy attached on it, they get immensely more scared about taking on that sort of risk. And so you should really, really be careful about the strata levies and sinking fund. And I will honestly say to any investor out there, it is almost better not to purchase a unit than to purchase a unit without doing proper due diligence, especially when it comes to strata levies and sinking fund health. And that is exactly why it is the first pitfall that I want to make. Now, before I do go any further, if you haven't already, jump into the private community, guys. It's $40 a month and you get education like this on a daily basis. You can ask me any questions about any suburb, any property, and I will help break down the numbers, the data, and whether or not it's a good investment decision or not. And in this ever-changing environment where SMSF gets destroyed, where negative gearing gets destroyed, you need strategic guidance. And remember, the best time to invest is today. And so if you need guidance and help to navigate you through this difficult and confusing time and help you still make the right investment decisions, that is where I can help. Jump in the private community and we can get you started. Let's get back into the video. Now, the next one I want to go through is high investor ratio and poor building culture. Now, this is one that is not talked about widely on the internet, but it's actually really, really important. When a complex is overwhelmingly investor owned, nobody really has skin in the game for the building itself. And the reason I mention this is because there are units that have too many investors that own that block than owner occupiers. We want to have that ratio the other way around, where there are more owner occupiers in the building than investors. Why? Because owner occupiers actually take care of their building. They don't defer maintenance. They take care of common areas like lifts, shared facilities, and more. They are aware of the actual building itself, the overall condition of it. They put an effort to take care of it. Every time I see an investor dominated unit, I often find there is a lot of deferred maintenance. The sinking fund is low, they don't attend the strata meetings, and they're disengaged from the community of that unit. And that will deteriorate the property faster, property is not taken care of properly, and that will lead to bigger capital works down the line. And I'll touch on this point a bit later, but this also means there's also more rental competition within that unit itself, and it's also harder to sell because there's more assets that could be sold at the same time in that unit block, which means your price might not elevate as much. That is a common pitfall that people actually don't talk about when it comes to units. Having more owner occupiers is a good thing within the unit itself, not just the suburb. Now, the next one I want to talk about is oversupply in the complex or precinct. Now, this is a topic I've talked about quite a lot before, but when you go out and you look to buy a unit, the last thing you want to do is buy one, these super high rise apartments, and number two is you don't want to buy these units that have multiple properties listed within the same unit block itself. You can just see in itself that in this unit block there are 10 listings, there are 10 properties in this one unit, all being advertised for sale. Now, of course, there are 2x1s, 1x1, 3x2s, etc., etc. However, that is still more competition in that one block itself. There is an oversupply of units from a sellability perspective as well as a rentability perspective, and it is not ideal as an investor to purchase this. It's a common pitfall, but for some reason, no matter how many times I tell people about it, they still go out and buy it. So please don't do that. And it's not just from the acquisition side of things, it's also coming down to the tenant side of things. When you have very high-rise building or a high-rise building that has a lot of units in it, the number of concurrent rental listings can be very high, and that means your rent might not elevate as much, and hence you'll have a worse cash flow off from day one. So it is not ideal. Your property can sit vacant for longer, you'll take a hit on cash flow immediately. It is not ideal. So oversupplying the complex or precinct is not ideal, and this also touches onto my point previously about if there's too many investors in that one unit, it is not ideal. Now, this is one that I have seen more recently, and it's because I've been reviewing unit opportunities that have been given to me by community members from buyers agents, and that is Carspace. Now, Carspace is one that is not really talked about. However, when you are purchasing a unit, oftentimes it should come with a lock-up garage on the older red brick units, or B, it should come with a Carspace on the more modern units built 2010 onwards. If it has neither of those, I will not buy that unit. Having a Carspace makes it the unit and the property that much more appealing to future owner occupiers and to future tenants. And sometimes they often have a higher rental yield and they have higher rent as well. Oftentimes I do find that owner occupiers won't shortlist a unit if they don't have a Carspace unless you're in the front of Bondi in Sydney, right? Which will shrink your future buyer pool. People who have families that have multiple children, they want to have a Carspace and they will pay a premium for parking because everyone has a car in Australia, right? Almost everyone anyway. That might be a bit of a stretch, but almost everyone has a car in Australia, and a Carspace on a title adds resale value in my opinion, and sometimes it can even be leased out separately, right? No Carspace equals smaller buyer pool and weaker resale value. In my opinion, if you're going to buy a unit, make sure it has a Carspace. I think it's a simple common pitfall that people overlook. Don't do it. Now, let's talk about this one, building age and defect risk. Now, units built roughly between 2000 and 2015 sit in a difficult window. Combustible cladding remediation costs have wiped out equity for investors in different states, particularly in Victoria, where they purchase an older red brick unit, but it has a combustible cladding, and that can be costly to repair. Also, when you look at these older units, if they've not been taken care of well, they could have waterproofing failures in the balconies, wet areas, and roof. There's one time I went to inspect a unit with my friend, and it's in Sydney, and that unit had a massive waterproofing failure, and there was leakage across all the common areas of the carpets. I believe it was a plumbing failure, and that had a special levy raised for it to repair it. It cost a lot of money. Every single owner who went to look at that and inspect that property just left straight away. They did not want to deal with that issue. And unfortunately, the agent didn't even put that issue on the listing description, and I think there's obvious reasons why. So when you are looking at these older buildings between 2000 and 2015, it is good to have a strata inspection report and also have a building inspection report for your own personal unit. Those two things are a must when purchasing a older unit. Now, I can do more common pitfalls of purchasing older brick units, and if you want me to do that video, just comment down below red brick units and I will do that video for you because I believe it will bring immense value. But let's keep going. Now, the next one is lot entitlements versus levies paid. Now, this is not something I have seen a lot of, but it's something that I have seen more recently. In some of the older schemes, the lot entitlements can be misaligned with the actual size and value. You can end up paying a disproportionate value or higher levies relative to your unit, right? Oftentimes with modern units, lot entitlements determine your share of the total levies and common property liability, right? So if you had a smaller block, then you would pay a smaller amount of levy. If you had a bigger block in that unit, you pay a bigger amount of levy. And that's the way it should be. Sometimes in the older units, the older schemes, you might have lot entitlements that don't necessarily align up. So you just have to double check that And if you don't do that, then your net yield could be a little bit skewed against you. Again, not a massive issue, but you want to have the right amount of skin in the game, and you want everyone to be paying their fair share of levies. The last thing you want is to have disputes about this, so just double check that and make sure it's all aligned. Now this one is a little bit interesting. It's about the AGM minutes. Now oftentimes when invest into these unit blocks, you're going to have committee dysfunction, pending disputes. Some of the common pitfalls are, if you don't read the AGM minutes, you'll find concurrent issues coming up year after year that hasn't been resolved, and these ongoing disputes can lead to a costlier capital works issue down the line, and it could surface in the form of a special levy, which is not ideal. So if you can, ideally you definitely want to read last year's AGM minutes where possible, and if you can get the years before that, I would like to get that and read that as well, just to make sure there are no reoccurring issues coming up. And I do think the time that you spend upfront to uncover any potential due diligence issues, it will be better for you in the long run. Now of course this is a lot of work, and you're going to be able to eliminate a lot of units simply by reading one AGM report itself, but it's worth it. The last thing you want to do is be stuck with a unit with a bad committee, sinking funds, special levies, etc. You want to do what's right by you guys. Now, high levies and the impact on holding costs, right? Obviously I've already talked about high levies before, but the reason I want to put it again here was the actual impact on scaling a portfolio. Now oftentimes units will have a very high gross yield, but they have a more acceptable net yield. And the reason you have a more acceptable net yield is because of the levies. When you have high levies, that will eat into your overall net yield. And some people say, but the gross yield is what matters. Not really. When you go to build out a portfolio, you want to have good properties with good overall net yields. Now the reason this is important is because most lenders, when they assess your serviceability, they will already shade your rental income up to about 70 to 80%. So they don't take the full rental income, they take about 80% of the rental income. So if you have high levies and you don't have the same amount of rent covering it, then the serviceability might not be as good when it comes to scaling a portfolio. And so if you are thinking, oh, just because the rent covers the overall strata cost, that won't have a big impact on my scalability, my borrowing capacity, etc. No, please really run your numbers. Talk to your broker about it. Let them run the numbers. Ask them, if I purchase this unit at X rent and it has all these expenses, can I keep borrowing money? If the answer is yes, go for it. If the answer is no, maybe you should rethink about whether this unit actually helps you build out your portfolio. And remember, the other really important thing to understand about this is that strata levies, they never go down. They will always go up. So you have to be very careful about that. Now, the last one I want to talk about is strata manager conflict of interest. Now, this one is a really hard one to tell straight off the bat. And it's more something when it comes to managing a unit. And I might make a video about that as well, right? Oftentimes, and I believe there was a documentary about this, or an SBS or an ABC special about this, but sometimes strata managers have cozy arrangements with tradespeople, and they will refer all their maintenance work to their own network regardless of price, quality. And the problem with this is that this could drain your sinking fund. It can add special levies to your overall expenses, which is not ideal. And the thing about units is that if once something is set in place, can't change it until you influence an AGM majority. Because you need to get all the other landlords on board and then get these arrangements rearranged. So you have to be pretty careful about that. Obviously, it's one that's more about managing a unit, but it's still a common pitfall when it comes to units. And so I hope this video has helped you. And if you do have any further questions, drop it down in the comments below. Jump into the private community, get the help you need, because if you've reached the end of this video, then you're serious about buying a unit very, very soon, and you're looking for capital growth. And the best locations to invest into for units are in my suburb watch list. So jump in the community, get the help you need. And if you want me to make a special video about common pitfalls of red brick units, comment red brick unit below. Till next time, thank you very much.